Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day. Today we've got the relationship guy on, and I'm really excited to get right into this because he started off in counseling and then moved on to coaching and mixed the two of them together to create the interpersonal relationship coaching. Thank you, John Kenny, for being here. I'm really intrigued by this because counseling and coaching are usually on two opposite ends of the spectrum. How do you work them both together?
So I used it on myself, really. When I had counselling myself for 2 years, and that gave me a really deep understanding of where my issues came from, how I felt about things, but it didn't help me to move on. It didn't sort of shake me from the pattern that I was in of having pretty much disastrous relationships and self-sabotaging my own life. The coaching was able to go, okay, now you understand this about yourself. What do you want to do about it? So when I work with my clients, I use the counselling side of things to help people to understand where they come from. And then the coaching is like, okay, now we know where you come from, where we're going. Which with the counselling, you're not really directing the therapy. The therapy is directed by the client, whereas with the coaching, it's much more interactive and a lot more kind of suggestion and interactive kind of, you go away and try this and see how it works. How do you feel? Does this work for you? Does it not work for you? It was something that you're not really supposed to do in counselling. That's not what you're trained to do anyway. But for me, it was like, oh, okay, I really want to introduce this because it gets people out of that stuck space.
Yeah. Okay, so if someone listening wants to get to know themselves better, understand why they're having certain pattern behaviors, how could they start going about that?
You could try my book, first of all, which will be a really good start. It's about self-reflection. It's about understanding your story. So why might you think and feel the way that you do? If you can start to understand how you relate to people, what your relational patterns are, how you relate to yourself, what your kind of beliefs are, what meanings you give to things, then you can kind of really look at yourself. But looking at yourself helps you to have a much wider picture of kind of general human behavior as well. Because if you can understand why you're doing things, you can understand why other people might be doing them as well. So especially when you're in a relationship, you might go, okay, well, I do this because of that. Why might they do that? And rather than then saying this is a problem, it's okay, well, if that's the issue, then what's the solution? And having that deeper understanding of how people might be working stops you taking things personally as well. So if someone's acting out in a certain way, we have a tendency to say, you make me feel like this, you do this, and I don't like that. If we have an understanding of maybe why they're doing it or even questioned why they were doing it, that helps us to come together, to connect on a deeper level, because we're showing interest and understanding in one another. And it stops a lot of the friction and kind of regressive stuff that we might exhibit. So generally, if someone triggers me into my old stuff, I might feel that initially, but because I'm aware of what's going on for me now, and go, okay, I don't want to feel that anymore. What are they doing? And why might they be behaving like that, which is allowing me to feel this way, rather than me acting out in a way because my feelings are hurt or something like that.
Yeah, because when you're trying to understand yourself and you're trying to understand someone else, why they're behaving that way is for different purposes. For yourself, it's to change. And for someone else, it's to understand. I mean, they're both to understand, but like not to try to change them, but they're doing this because there's a reason for it. So I like that part that you just said, that once you know where it's coming from, then it's easier to go and flip it on the other person and understand why they're doing that.
Yeah, definitely. If I know that if you don't wash the dishes, I feel like you don't care about me, then that's going to cause a problem. Whereas if I go, okay, why aren't you washing the dishes? This is a very mundane kind of thing. Well, then I know that's not about me. Then I can take that away from myself and say, okay, what's going on for you that makes you not really want to be doing that, or is making you act in that way or do what you are doing? And I can explore that with you. Again, that gives me an understanding of you, and it stops me feeling bad and going into a horrible space of my own. But it's understanding that I feel that way in the first place, which has enabled me to do that, because I've noticed that I've been triggered. I noticed that something's not quite within me, and that helps me to explore the of the bigger situation.
Yeah. Okay. So now if I know where it's coming from and I understand why I'm behaving this way, how can I go and change my story on it so that it's different?
Because it's just a story, right? Your story has informed your opinions, your beliefs, your perceptions, the meanings that you give to things, but you don't need to do that. It's informed your values, your principles, all different things that your experiences will influence. It's up to you to decide whether this is the way you continue. So because you've always lived a certain way, because you've always acted a certain way, does that mean it's good for you? Does it mean it serves a positive purpose? And if it's not, it's just starting on a blank page. It's okay, if that's holding me back, or that's making these relationships not work, or whatever it might be, what do I need to do in order to move forward? How do I stop doing this? If this doesn't serve any purpose, I don't have to do this anymore. It's my choice. Whereas we're usually driven by need or habit. We get stuck in these cycles of behavior, and we don't know there's an alternative. Just because we do it, it doesn't mean we have to do it. It doesn't mean it's good for us. It doesn't mean it works. So it's about addressing that and saying, okay, I'll challenge myself and my behaviors and my understandings, and then I can give it a different meaning, and I can move on and start doing it in a much healthier way.
Yeah. Now that's really hard. How could someone go and start actually doing that?
It's not hard.
It's not hard. Okay. Why are you saying that?
Again, we come to kind of the NLP, neuro-linguistic program. If I tell myself something's hard, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, that is true.
It's easy. It's a process. You start at the beginning, and the beginning is, I find, and the way that I work with my clients is, I need to understand myself. So if I was to show you some algebra, you're going to be able to do algebra if you understand how to do algebra. If you don't understand how to do algebra, you've got you can't really use it. So if you understand yourself and you understand how other people work, you can then work with that stuff. And I always find it's a lot easier to accept something if you understand it. You may not like it very much. So some of the things that maybe have happened in my past, your past, and people that are listening, it's going to be upsetting. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to say that wasn't a very nice space. But what are the impacts of that space? Okay, do I allow now that space to continue, or do I do something differently with it? Yes, I didn't like it very much, and yes, it's had this impact on me, but actually it's affecting my life in this way, and I don't want to do that anymore. What are my alternatives? So I always find that if we can understand the patterns, we can understand what's really going on within ourselves, we can really accept that, okay, I accept that that's happened. I can process the emotions if I need to, if I haven't already done that. And then I can say, I now want to do something else. And what are my choices? And we can start to open up different avenues moving forward, see what works, what doesn't work, take these little steps. So your brain doesn't like change very much, as you said. It can be quite scary. Your brain loves a bit of certainty. So that's why we get stuck in these patterns, because your brain is choosing to do what it's always done. For some people, they don't care. Change is great. That's amazing. They'll do as much change and their brain's really comfortable with that. But you take it at your own pace and you put things in place. Okay, I know I do that. This feels better doing it this way. I'll continue to do this. Also, with the counselling, it's a long process generally. With the coaching, it's a much shorter process. But I found that with my counselling in the past, one of the reasons why I shifted as well was we get to a certain point and it was like, okay, what do we want to do now? And people weren't ready to change, or there was a lot of procrastination, but they were too comfortable being in the space that they were in before. And then the coaching can help you just edge that forward into finding another way of doing things. So it is easy to implement small changes.
Yeah, so like you said, it's a process and it's about taking small steps. But I'm sure there's some people listening who are going to say, it's a process, but it's a hard process. And I can't just go and lie to myself and tell myself that it's a process and just going to take small steps and it's going to be all right. What do you tell to such people?
Okay, so we're dealing with beliefs then, and beliefs are the most powerful thing you will ever have. Your brain is born in survival mode, so your primary function of your brain is to keep you alive. This is why all the essential functions such as heart beating and things like that are automatic things. So when a belief can override your need to survive, which it does when people kill themselves or terrorists blow themselves up or whatever that might be, you can see how powerful a belief is. So it's about addressing that belief. So if I believe it's hard, it's because I'm telling myself somewhere inside that maybe I don't want to do it. My brain is saying I won't do that. And it's about saying, okay, well, it is just a belief. It's not the truth. What the truth is, whatever I want it to be. So if I want this to be simple, if I want to make this easy for myself, I can. But it's overcoming those blocks maybe that you're in your own mind that is going to hold you back. And that's part of the process that I go through as well with my clients, is what are the things that are going to stop you? What's going to make you feel so uncomfortable? What don't you believe about yourself that is going to be hard for you to start to accept? So for instance, when I started changing my self-belief, it went from pretty much rejecting everything about me to then when I started talking nicely to myself, I had to start with something like, you know what, John, you're okay. Because my brain wouldn't have accepted anything else. If I'd have said, yeah, John, you're awesome, or you're great, you're fantastic, you're really good, and you're worthy and you're good enough, my brain would have gone, no, you're not. So I started off with very simple, which is, you know what, John, you're okay. You're okay. And I just kept saying that to myself. Every time I would have a little stumbling block or a bit of self-doubt. And then every day I would just say, get up in the morning, look in the mirror, stick little affirmations around the house. You're okay. Open the cupboard. John, you're okay. Just to get that message into my brain. And then eventually it was, you know what, John, you're really good. You're a great person. And now it's, John, you're freaking awesome, but with a different F word. So when I need to give myself a little bit of a booster, I look in the mirror and I say that and I believe it.
Wow. Like you said, it's a process. You take small steps and eventually you get there. We actually went much deeper into this in episode 52 with Tom Corner on why affirmations don't work and how you can go and make them work. And it was similar to what you're just saying right now. Guys, if you hadn't heard it yet, go right now and hear it. Or maybe you want to first finish this episode and then come back, whatever you want. John, how has all this counseling and coaching affected your own relationship?
So I went from having relationships that made me feel unworthy, not good enough, that no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough, and stopped me buying into that pattern. So when I met my wife, I was dating her for a couple of weeks and I thought, I'm not going to see her again because she didn't buy into my old pattern. So no, actually, this could be what you're looking for. This could be really good. This could be different from everything else you've ever allowed yourself to have in the past. And it was, and it obviously worked out and we got married. I didn't get married till I was 45. Before that, I was having lots of difficult relationships, and the relationships that were good, I would ruin them because I didn't know how to be in a healthy space. And that had a lot to do with my stuff as a kid. But my safe space as a child was to be by myself. So whenever I would enter a relationship with someone, I would always feel massive relief when it was over because I would be by myself. Although I was very unhappy and I didn't really want to be alone, I would always feel a lot better because that was my go-to space. So I'd always choose relationships which would take me through the same types of unhealthy patterns, but then would lead me to be by myself at the end where I was most comfortable, even though I was very unhappy. And that's what I shifted away from. I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that to myself anymore. I'm going to allow myself to connect to someone in a different way. I was an avoidant, about attachment theory. So I was an avoidant attachment. So whenever I got close to someone, I would shut up shop and walk away because I didn't know how to be close to someone. It would trigger something inside of me. And I let go of that avoidant attachment as well. I thought, okay, I want to connect to someone at a deeper level. So it was again, but going through that process of just talking to myself a lot and saying, this is what I want. This is how I want my relationships to be from now on. And this is what I'm going to allow in my life as I move forward. And I put those changes in place to allow those relationships to change.
How long were you with your wife for?
We were together 2 years before we got married.
How long have you been married for now? Where's the question? 4.5 years. So right before you got involved in the coaching.
I was actually coaching, but I wasn't specifically focusing on so I trained as a coach in 2012, but I hadn't sorted my own life out.
Do you ever try coaching your wife?
Is the right word? Yeah. She has actually said to me before, I wish I wasn't married to you and then you could be my coach.
Oh, okay. So she likes when you do it.
She does. I'm not sure if like is the word, but she finds what I say valuable sometimes. So yeah, there are certain aspects of what she does, what she's done in the past where I go, well, have you thought about maybe doing it like that? Have you thought of other options, or do you understand why you feel like that? Rather than actually coaching her and sort of saying, okay, it is a form of helping her to understand where she is. And she does find that useful on occasion. Other times she's just, don't try and coach me.
You sent her off to a coach.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what advice would you give to someone who wants to have an extraordinary relationship?
So to have the extraordinary relationship is about changing or knowing what it is you want and only allowing that in your life. So if you want a relationship which is this, then it's about you saying, this is what I want for myself. This is the kind of person that I want to be with. This is how I want to feel in a relationship, and allowing yourself to bring someone into giving off that kind of energy that's going to attract that kind of person. Again, that's what's good about the healthy patterns of relationships is you generally attract a healthy person towards you. If you've got unhealthy or maladaptive patterns of relationships, you have a tendency to attract the same types of patterns all the time because you're attracting what you're giving out and what you're used to. So to have the healthy and extraordinary extraordinary relationship is about saying, okay, this is what I want. And that's the thing that I come across a lot with my clients. I say, well, what do you want? And they go, I don't know. I've never really thought about that. I know what I don't want, but a problem is when we know what we don't want, we always look for what we don't want.
So your brain's going to attract.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I'm looking for someone to avoid someone who's abusive, I'm looking to avoid, so I'm always looking out for abusive people, so I'm going to avoid them. But again, so if I can shift that and say, okay, so I want, rather than looking for someone who's not abusive, let's look for someone who's kind and caring and shows me that I'm a priority and gives me the love and attention that I'm looking for. And then you'll start to look for the right things in people and give off that kind of, again, once you become comfortable with yourself and happy with yourself, then you'll attract someone who's happy and comfortable with you. So I was working with someone recently about dating. They're going on dating, and they had some sessions with a dating coach, and the dating coach was telling them to wear a mask to just put their best self forward. And I would say, well, how does that work when you attract someone that they only see this image of yourself you're trying to portray? I said, what you really need to do is be comfortable with who you are, and then put that out there. And if you put that person that you're comfortable with out there, the person that is with you wants to be with the person you're comfortable with, and they'll be comfortable with you as well. So you can always be yourself, or as often as possible you can be yourself, and know that person is with you because you are being yourself. And hopefully your authentic self will bring out their authentic self if they've got any problems kind of showing that. And then you can have that kind of extraordinary relationship.
When you say make it really clear, do you suggest they make a list, they discuss it with their partner? How should they go about it?
Yeah, so they can make a list. They can, even if they can't think of what they want, they can think of what they don't want and just put the opposite down.
And then focus on that list, the opposite list.
Don't want list away and just focus on the want list. Yeah, so discuss it with your partner. If there are things that you're not happy with within the relationship, if you're with the right person and you need things to change, they will hopefully care enough about you to say, yeah, if that's what you need. It may take a little bit of adjustment, and don't expect miraculous changes overnight. But if they care enough about you and you care enough about them, you can have that mutual exchange of, all right, well, if that really matters to you, then I'm prepared to do it. Again, we just need to stop short of people pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, okay, does this work for me? If I change, is this what I want? You know, if this is going against kind of how I want this relationship to be, then I'm not just going to do that for somebody because they want it. We need to kind of figure out how that's going to work so we both get some benefit. But if it's something, do you know what, actually that's not that important to me, but it's important to them, and if that's what they want, that's what I'll do, because I care enough about them to make that happen.
Right. It's not coming from a people's pleasing point of view. It's, I'm living my authentic self, you're living your authentic self, and we're in this relationship together. We're going to try to understand each other and see what we could do to make it work. Okay, what I do is called relationship photography, is where I take pictures of couples in their ultimate state of love and connection, focusing on the emotions that they do want, just like you said, to train their brain to find that and to make that in their relationship. And then we take their favorite pictures, hang it up on the wall like a vision board, and go even further by journaling about it and doing all sorts of art things with their non-dominant hand. What's your opinion on vision boards?
I think they work well for the right people. Vision boards are good to give you something to aim towards, but with some people, it depends how you use them as well. So I've worked with some people before, and they've said about using your vision board, but tell you this is what I've got, rather than this is what I'm aiming for. So your brain, if your brain thinks this is what I've already got, it can stop aiming for things. So again, it depends how you use your vision board. So if someone says this is what I've already got, then your brain can say, well, if you've already got it, then I don't need to try anymore. If you're saying this is what I'm aiming for, then your brain still knows it's trying to get something from it. And then when you've got it, it's depending on, actually, is this what I really wanted in the first place? But now that I've got it, I need to make sure that I'm consistent with it.
So it depends if your focus is like, okay, I'm doing enough, things are great. Not things are great, but I want to accept the way things are, then you're going to use the vision board of how things are right now. But if you're in like, okay, my relationship is great, I want to make it even better, then you're going to want to do something that you want in the future.
Yeah. So set up what you want your relationship to feel like. What do you want your relationship to be like with that person? And then you can then put things in place which will get you to that space.
Yeah, but I think there's a really big misconception. People think you hang up a vision board and then that means you get everything. It's like, it's not going to happen just by lying down in bed.
No, definitely not. You need to go and make it happen. It's like the law of attraction. The law of attraction comes to you if you go and look for it.
Yeah.
doesn't, like you said, if you're just lying in bed, the universe doesn't say, well, if that's what you want, I'll give it to you. It's like, if that's what you want, come and get it.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Exactly.
And there's part of your brain that actually helps you to do that. There's a physical part of your brain which switches on when you are looking for something, and it's called your reticular activating system. And when you say, I want to do this, your brain says, oh, well, that's what you want. I'll look out for things for you to help you to make that happen. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, because the thing with relationships, it relies on more than one person. So therefore, we are very reliant on external factors to make sure that we can have the relationships that we want. We're relying on someone else to be the person we need them to be.
Yeah, but you could become self-sufficient with yourself and say like, okay, I want to feel loved. I don't need to wait for the other person to feel loved. I want to feel loved with myself.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we need to work on first.
Yeah.
Is to say, okay, how do I feel about myself? And to make sure that you've got that healthy relationship with you. Because even if you've got an unhealthy relationship with you, it doesn't really matter how much love someone else gives you. That's always going to be a temporary fulfillment. You know, you're relying on someone else to make you feel better all the time, then you're never going to feel better, because they can't do that for you all of the time. You can't look for your own fulfillment in something else, because something else is always temporary, and you're always chasing that temporary fix otherwise.
Yeah, it codependency, I think.
Yeah,
Can be. I don't know if always, but it can be for sure.
Yeah, definitely leads to codependency. Yeah, because you're always relying on, and if that's coming from the other side as well, so you're always relying on each other to make you feel better, then you're always going to be searching for that in that other person, and you do become codependent, because you can't then be without them, no matter how bad things might be. If they fulfill something inside of you, you will hang around and keep chasing that need all of the time. But the point I was making about having someone else to care about you're definitely, you're right, you need to care about yourself first. You need to love yourself first as much as you possibly can, but you are relying on someone to make the relationship the way you want it to be. So you might say, this is what I want from you, and they might say, well, I can't give you that, I won't give you that, I won't be that person, I can't be the person. And again, then you need to decide how important that is to you to be even in that relationship, especially if you're already with them. And if they can't offer you that, then maybe that isn't the right relationship for you in the first place. Because of these relational patterns and beliefs and stuff that we carry, we do have a tendency to follow certain types of relationships. So if I am a people pleaser, it is likely that I will attract someone who likes to take. Now that will suit you for a certain amount of time, because your people pleasing need is being met and their taking need is being met. Eventually the people pleaser generally will become resentful, because they're never ever getting any of their other needs met apart from the one of pleasing someone else. And then they try and change the relationship, say, now you need to give me something, and the taker goes, but that's not how this works, I'm a taker, goodbye. The people pleaser, then if they are codependent, or if they've got trauma bonding or anything like that, they'll stay, because they'll still want to get that people pleasing need met. So it's really important that you understand your own stuff, where you're coming from, and know that the person that you're attracting into your life is there for the healthy reasons, and not for something that's going to be detrimental to you in the long term. And most takers don't like to take either. They might like it for a while, but it's human nature to have boundaries, you know. And if you don't set boundaries for people, they can also feel a little bit out of their own depth. So some of the times I work with clients, and they are the taker type of people, but they don't want to keep taking. They feel like they're taking advantage of someone, and they want this other person to put their foot down and tell them no.
So they need someone else to put the boundaries for them.
Yeah, because they don't know how to stop themselves. So they keep taking and they want to stop. And they say, I really want them to put their foot down. I really want them to say no to me. I really want them to take control more in this relationship, but they won't. But I can't stop myself then from carrying on. So yeah, it's all very complicated on some occasions.
Isn't that what relationships are? I could also imagine that as soon as their partner does maybe put down the boundaries, they're going to resent it, because they're not used to it. Even though they really want it, it's really hard for them.
Yeah, it really goes against everything they've done for most of their life, probably. And there will be a certain amount of resistance in there to let them happen. And again, that's why we work through that in the sessions. It's like, you need to then put this into practice so we can see how you feel about it. It doesn't mean the other person's going to do it either, because the other person's too busy being a people pleaser than to go, but I want to make you happy, and I don't know how to take control of this situation.
Yeah, so that's why it goes back to being yourself. If the taker would put down their own boundaries and learn how to do that, and the people's pleaser will put down their boundaries of how much they give, then hopefully that would lead to a healthy relationship.
Exactly. And again, it's that art of communication, isn't it? It's about coming together and saying, okay, I don't want to people please so much. I don't want to take so much. Let's talk about this and come to and work on a different level with one another, so that we can find that balance, that actually what we're really looking for.
Yes, exactly. You have to set those boundaries. You have to communicate. And if you go even deeper, you go to the core to why they're being a people's pleaser or why they're being such takers. And then you'll solve so much more issues in many areas of their lives, because probably they're being a people's pleaser to most people around them. And they're probably taking from most people around them. So get to the core, heal yourself, so that way you could live so much better. Now, you want to end us off with one awesome communication tip.
Communication tip is to listen and acknowledge. So if you're acknowledging someone, it means you've had to listen. So what we have a tendency to do is when someone's talking to us, we're already formulating a response of our own in our heads. So therefore, we're not entirely listening to what they're saying. Might not be getting the meaning of what they're saying. So if someone's talking to you, I would listen, refer back to what they've just said to clarify the understanding, so that you know exactly what they've said and they know that you've heard them. And then you can say, okay, I can completely heard what you said. You said this is how you feel, this is what you think, whatever it might be. And if you've got a difference of opinion, that's okay then for you to say, I've heard what you've said, this is what I think about it.
Heard what you said by repeating back what they said, not just say, I heard what you said.
Repeat back what they've said so you can clarify the understanding, because they might go, no, that's not what I said. Again, we have a tendency not to listen. We hear it, but we don't listen to it, because we are in our own headspace most of the time. And if someone's saying, especially if someone's saying something we don't really like, then we will already go into whatever our defensive posture is, and we'll start to formulate our own response based on what we want to say rather than what they've said. So again, you clarify the understanding. This is what you said, this is how you feel, blah blah blah, but this is what I think. And then hopefully you'll have some kind of open dialogue where you completely understand. It doesn't mean it's going to solve the problem, because you might be so far apart on what the issue is that it's going to take a lot more than just one conversation to be able to find some kind of resolution to it. But at least we all like to be heard, right? So you're validating what someone's saying by listening. You're repeating back what they've said so they know they've been heard. You know you've definitely got the right gist of the story, and then you can give them hopefully your opinion, and then they'll be open to listening to you as well, so you can have that open dialogue.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. It was great speaking to you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And guys, if you want to find out more about John and how he does counseling and coaching together, you could go to johnkenny.com. I'll put the link in the show notes together with all the social media accounts. Thank you again, John. This is great. Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and have an awesome day.